Okay, yes. So, good afternoon, everybody. Firstly, thank you all for taking the time out to join us on this webinar this afternoon, and thank you to Denise for this opportunity to speak with you today. So, I'm Jake, and I'm the partner manager for GetMapping, and today I'm going to give you a brief 101/intro to GetMapping, talk a bit about our partnership with Adina and the datasets that you can access in Digimap as a result as that part of that partnership. And as Denise mentioned, there will be time for any questions that you may have at the end. So a quick overview of GetMapping. Essentially, we collect and provide spatial data from imagery, mapping, street data, and make this data available through APIs and online applications like Digimap. We've been around for 25 years now, so you could say we're pretty well established in this space, in the geospatial world. I suppose we pride ourselves on being pioneers, really, and we always aim to be leaders and stand out with what we do. And just on this slide, I've included, just some key milestones from over the past 25 years. So we were the first to capture imagery on a national scale and make this available online through our web shop and streaming services, which was probably a bit ahead of its time in 2000, to be honest. We transitioned from analog cameras to digital technology to enhance capture capabilities. And in 2017, we began our street scanning journey, which we refer to as mobile mapping, collecting data at street level. And this really brought our air down, ground up piece together by combining the data we collect on the ground to the data we collect from the air. In 2023, so last year, we were the first company to launch a high-res capture program in the UK to capture 5 centimeter resolution vertical imagery for urban areas across the UK. And more recently, we are seeing some really cool stuff happening with AI and our data sets. So the first product that you can access through Digimap, and one that I hope you're all familiar with, is our aerial imagery. Now, we first collected aerial imagery in 1999 with an analog system, and this data was collected at 25 centimeter resolution. I've included a sample of that resolution on the right-hand side of this slide. Now, when we captured this data in 1999 and 2000, this data set was referred to and is still known as the Millennium Map. And it's pretty groundbreaking for its time, to be honest. But as the tech advanced, so did the capabilities, with digital cameras enabling us to capture larger areas at a much higher resolution and in less time, which was great for maintaining the national layer, which we have been doing so since 1999. Firstly on a 5-year update cycle, which then moved to a 3-year update cycle. And I think from this year, so from the 2024 flying season, that's going to be on a 2-year update cycle. So at present, there shouldn't be an area within Great Britain that is older than 3 years. And yeah, just a side note to that, from the end of last season, 2023, the flying season, we now have complete coverage of Great Britain at 12.5 centimeter resolution, which is the first time that this data set has existed at all. So yeah, that's pretty cool. As mentioned, in 2023, we launched our high-res capture program, City View, and I just wanted to give you a example of what that sort of level of data you can get from that imagery in a snippet here on the left-hand side. Now, the program is designed, yes, to collect and update 5 centimeter vertical imagery of 100 urban areas across the UK, and that will continue to be collected on an annual basis going forwards. So aerial imagery can be used for a number of things, from asset management, infrastructure planning and development, monitoring change over time. If you have historic imagery a number of years, you can track what's happened over over the period of time. Renewable energy providers as well are using it, especially at the moment for planning on where to build and future projects. We're seeing a lot of it used for asset management and property maintenance as well, for things like roofs. We have a UK superstore, a retailer, sorry, using our imagery for the maintenance of their roofs for all their sites across the UK. So the second data set, or lot of data, should I say, from us that you can access through Digimap, will be our height data or digital elevation models. Now, the DTM and DSM data is a product that is derived from our aerial imagery. And for those that don't know, a DTM, a digital terrain model, is a topographical model of the bare Earth. And a DSM, which is a digital surface model, contains features above the surface, such as buildings and vegetation. On the right-hand side, I've included a snippet of the 5-meter DTM, and that's at a 5-meter resolution and won't really be improved on that, as the surface, of the bare Earth doesn't really change over time. Whereas from a digital surface model and anything above the surface, traditionally this was output at 2 meters, meaning there was a reading at every 2 meters across the data set. But in recent years, and with acquiring a new system and production workflow, we're now actually able to produce that data at a 25 centimeter resolution, creating a much richer data set in the process. And like our national imagery layer, all of these data sets here are available on a national scale. So we have all of these data sets available for all of Great Britain. DTM and DSM data can be used for things such as creating a detailed view of the environment, and then used for things like land use planning, environmental assessment, urban planning, and even things like forestry and natural resource management. And the third data set is it's a bit more niche. It's CIR, which is color infrared imagery, and it's a false color photograph that shows the reflected magnetic waves from an object. And it's referred to as a false color because it renders the scene in the colors that aren't actually normally visible to the human eye. Historically, the CIR data was captured and provided at 50 centimeter resolution, which you can see an example of on the left image here on this slide. But again, in 2022 and 2023, we began to capture and process this data at 12.5 centimeter resolution, just to provide the user with that bit more clarity and detail, when coming to work with this data, within the projects that they need it for. And Adena and Digimap were actually the first users or partners of ours to take this data and provide it at this resolution. So you see, yes, it is a bit more niche, and this data is generally used for things like identifying plant species, estimating biomass or vegetation. So the richer or the more vibrant the red within the imagery, the healthier the plant or the crop. It can be used for assessing soil moisture, and even things like water clarity within reason in some projects. So in addition to the use cases I've just reeled off over the previous slides, here are some that are higher res data sets, especially provide that extra layer of insight to. So from things like land use analysis with AI to identify different zones within a city, creating a 3D digital representation of the environment with the height data, especially the 25 centimeter DSM. And if you want to then combine that with the aerial imagery, so if they have 5 centimeter resolution imagery, that creates a really rich digital representation of that environment, and can be used for things like line of sight analysis. And if you want to combine all three, it can be used for, detecting change over time with comparison of areas such as forestry, to check the health of crops, but also areas impacted with things such as deforestation and also reforestation. So our partnership with Adina, it's great. I think we're coming into our eighth year now, and it's quite funny actually reeling off all of those other data sets that we now provide, because when we first started providing or working with Adina, we were providing just our aerial imagery at 25 centimeter resolution. We see it as, as partners and from a GetMapping standpoint, it's kind of our duty to empower Adina and its users and students and anyone who has access to it to to have access to and utilize the best data that there is. Whether that is the highest resolution imagery across all of Great Britain, whether that is provided offline or online through our cloud hosting solutions. We have nationwide coverage. We have the historic imagery available as well. I'm not sure if that's available through Digimap, but we can provide that and make that available to Adina and its users for particular projects or use cases. And in addition to that, though, we are here to help and support you as well. So if there's anything else or out of the ordinary that you cannot access through Digimap, or you have a particular use case, don't be afraid to reach out and get in touch. And the partnership and the data coming through that is only going to grow and improve year on year from this point going forwards. And on that note, then yes, I'd just like to wrap up. Thank you all for joining again and taking your time out of your busy days or your lunch hours. And I hope that was useful. You learned something and can take something from it. And yeah, I'll pass back to Denise now, perhaps, and we can open the floor for any questions if you do have any, or if you think of something later. You can certainly get my details from Denise, who'll be able to help. So yes, thank you all.